I walked into that interview room with hope in my heart, getting to know that I'll get out of this place with a promotion. But guess what? I was given a cruel, rude feedback. And that moment broke me. I went back to my car and I consoled myself. I told myself, you know what? When I was looking for a job, I came on public means. But today, I'm going to go back home driving. It was a review for my next level on my job. And it tested my emotional resilience. I cried. I felt unseen. I felt unappreciated. But at the end of it all, I went back home and told myself, I'm going to work harder. For whatever targets they added, I'm going to meet them. I'll make sure that the following year, I'll still show up again. So what exactly do we mean when we talk of building resilience? It means that no matter what kind of setbacks that come to your life, you're ready to move on regardless. Building resilience requires you to understand a few things. One is understanding who you are. Who am I? What do I believe in? What are my goals? What am I ready to pursue? What am I ready to do and not to quit in pursuing my goals? Resilience tells you that no matter the setback, I'm going to push forward. Regardless of who says no, I'm ready to push until something happens. There will always be setbacks. Whether you're a student, there are moments you're going to get that 40% on that cut. You expected an 80. According to you, you had worked hard. You had done your best, only for the exam to come differently. The question is, are you ready to work hard for the next exam and tell yourself, I can still do it? You know, sometimes even right now when I'm a creator, sometimes you go to a hotel and you really want to do something. You had already communicated to them and all of a sudden they tell you, no, we're not willing to allow you to film because we think this is not in order according to us. And you tell them, no, we had communicated. What has changed? And they tell you, yeah, at the moment we don't think this is okay. You know, you get to a point whereby you almost feel like crashing or you feel like losing your calm. But then again, you remind yourself that resilience is actually being positive, even when things are not looking positive. You know, allowing yourself to swallow your ego at that moment and say, you know what? Well, I'll still go on. Or allowing yourself to say, how can I maneuver through this? What kind of change can I do to still make it to my objective? Resilience tells you that you can actually change or get solutions to your problems within a very quick or short time without having to say, oh, I give up on this, I'm letting go, I'm going away. You know, you sit there and decide, well, let me see how it goes, or how can I change this so that it actually looks or meets my objective? You know, if you really want to pursue your goal, you want to achieve your dreams, you have to build resilience, because not everyone will be out there to clap for you. Not everyone will welcome your ideas. Not everyone is actually willing to hold your hand so that you can be able to pursue what you wish to pursue. The truth is, there will always be someone who says no. Like when sometimes you want to just go and visit a very senior person in office, and sometimes the secretary just, they just look at you from head to toe and they're like, excuse me, he's not in, or she's not in. And the reality is, it's not like they just decided that today they are not in. Somebody who has been given the authorities to sit there as a secretary just looks at you and decides to say no. But you know what? Resilience means being persistent, to wait until you see them, or even if you have to let go, letting go and still holding your head high without losing your dignity. Because their rejection does not mean that you're not worthy. Their rejection sometimes is just their own mood, their own way of thinking, their own way of analyzing you. Resilience says, I know who I am. I know my worth. I'm pursuing what I know is rightfully mine. This, when pursuing your dreams, you will have to build your resilience, because the world is not willing to give way to you on a silver platter. Sometimes your emotional resilience is tested. And I remember when I was doing my master's, I had a supervisor that was abroad, and we used to do Skype. And so there was this time, and that time we never had Wi-Fi in our homes as such as today. So most of the time you'd go to the cyber, stick there and wait for her to call on the other side, and there you are waiting for the Skype call. So you wait until I waited for almost maybe 30-40 minutes, and I'm like, hey, this person is, in my own mind, I'm like, this person is wasting my time. But emotional resilience at this point, when you're chasing your goals, it teaches you to swallow your pride. It teaches you to swallow your ego. And I remember when she came on call, I was so angry, and I'm like, it's like you've wasted a lot of time, and here I am waiting for you. You've passed my time. And she was a professor, and she was like, hey Peris, can I give you some time to just cool down? And wow, I breathed heavily, and she cut the call, and I was like, really? Yeah, that is what it meant. But here I am, I'm chasing my dream. I need this master's. This is my supervisor. And she's teaching me to handle my emotions. She's teaching me to be more resilient. I knew she stayed almost like 20 minutes. And then I called back. And she's like, are you now okay? Yes. And that taught me a lesson. Because sometimes you can actually lose your goals when you lose your emotions through lack of resilience. Sometimes you have to learn to swallow the frustration, let it down, and still move on by keeping your peace. Because sometimes not all battles are worth fighting. Emotional resilience is built by knowing, who am I? You need to have a high level of self-esteem, knowing who exactly you are, having a positive attitude towards yourself. When you have a positive attitude towards yourself, you know what that means? No matter who says no to you, it doesn't make you lose your value. It doesn't make you feel like you are lesser than who you are. That's exactly what emotional resilience is. And you need to have that positive talk about yourself. Because sometimes there are doors you will knock and they will say no. There are places you will go and they'll say no. But you as an individual within yourself, you need to build that self-worth to a level that no matter how many no's they say to you, you know your worth, you know your value, you're still enough. Emotional resilience is also built on the fact that you know whose you are. And whose you are is that you know that I am born of God, that God is my Father, that no matter what, I have a heavenly Father that I can always lean on. I can always trust Him. I can always run back to Him. He says He is a tower. We can run to Him and we are safe. You know, when I feel so down and I feel like I can't move on, I always remind myself there is a Father in heaven, somebody who is closer than a brother, somebody that is just a call away. And by just me going home, worshiping and thanking God for whatever happens, that no matter the setback, I am certain there is a shoulder I can lean on. You know, in real life, you will always find people that will betray you, talk ill of you, even when they are actually telling lies. Whether in relationships that you really trusted and then they betray you, or whether in marriage and you really believed in it and then it just betrays you, or whether a friend that you really trusted and they betrayed you. And you know, when it comes to emotional resilience, it's the same story. When we talk of Joseph, the dreamer, you know, they knew that he dreamt big about himself, but the brothers decided, no, we can't allow him. And in fact, they decided to sell him away. But what did Joseph do in return? Instead of paying evil for evil, he decided to pay them evil for good. Despite the betrayal, despite the cruelty that he went through when he was in prison, he still maintained his emotions. He could handle them because he always reminded himself there was a bigger being that talked to him, the one that gave him the dream, and that was God. Emotional resilience is when you choose that even if I was to lose my job today, I'm still show up for myself. You know, I would feel the pain, but you know what? I would still work hard. I won't give up on myself. I won't give up on life. I won't think of killing myself. I'll think of what next can I do? Can I grow through this pain? When I'm in that financial struggle and you're wondering, how do I get out of this place? Of course, sometimes you feel like you're in a rock and a hard place. But you know, you put yourself together and you tell yourself, I have to just work hard. I have to do something extra. It gives you the will to start, to make solutions, the will to think out of the box. Because you have to make a decision on what next do I do? How do I solve my problems? How do I adapt to this new situation? And sometimes emotional resilience can actually come even when you go through a divorce. You have to just accept, you know what? I thought this thing was going to stay for life, but no, it's not for life anymore. Here we are broken, and I have to start over again. But I have to show up for my children. I have to show up for myself. I have to move on regardless. And I have to turn this pain into some form of purpose, or I have to turn this pain into some form of lessons and ask myself, where did I go wrong? And how would I advise someone else so that they don't go wrong? So if you're here listening to me and you feel like you're lost, wondering whether to move on, I want you to wake up and bounce back. Because the truth is, in life, there are ups and downs, but you have to learn to survive through the crisis. If you love this kind of content, please remember to give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. And don't forget to keep believing in yourself. See you in our next episode.